Buenas noches, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, muchas gracias to everyone for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, as the love and support everyone shares and extends my way. From the corazón, gracias. Also, if you can, do please like, share, subscribe, and hype this video if it's to your liking. Thank you. Well, getting right into what I want to touch on today. Today is just, you could say, a story time, right? I wanted to share with you some things came up in a conversation today. So, went back to what I've been asked a lot about the current charges that Topo Garcia have on him, right? So I said I'm going to share a story of them on Topo and the type of weight that he has in the feds, right? But anyways, again, I'm right there with Sana, right? It's been a year, probably 2017, mids, somewhere there. Regardless, I'm right there in Pennsylvania with them, and you know, as we're strolling one day, just taking laps, conversating. Most of our conversations mostly led to things out here in Mexico, that had been happening, and basically like a heads up of what I was gonna inherit or come into, you know. And you know, I knew appeals that were hot were coming in, right? Or Willa's just I know from her, to be sincere, it was like, remember one day they just told me like, hey, keep trucha for these two autos arriving, okay? They're gonna be arriving from Coleman, Florida. So I said, okay, se les espera algo. And she's like, no, no, todo bien. And, we'll a while pass, Again, I don't know what would take so long to get that move. They were already aware that they were headed that way, right? If you guys get what I'm trying to say, there was way too much of a delay, right? But anyways, they would eventually hit the spot, right? The homie from 38 and Odie from Florencia, Wino from 38, perdón. And anyways, they got there, and there was a thing at this time, especially where we were at, with the Dominicanos. There was a lot of dealings with them because, well, just to keep it sincere, they had a real easy and legit way to get things, let's say, across the states, right? And everything worked out. But as everything, the Federicos, they're on top of things. And if you use one method for more than a year, 2 years, you know, give it a rest. You're not gonna catch up to it. There's just too many people talking all the time, right? And nevertheless, a lot of errors started occurring, right? Things not getting to where they needed to get, or not. what should be. And well, I told the story how it went up with us and them, due to it too, right? But that happened later on. This is beforehand, where you know there was this Dominicano Tito or Dito or something like that. Just call him T, right? That was on the yard. That his money was real good in the sense that the vato would have a base and just get it to me here, and they would front him. To be sincere, though, the pilis and camaradas would front to this individual because he was a good pay, right? Well, when these two homies arrived, the Amapils were getting there. Before them, they were from Topo, and they were basically addressing a Dominican that was supposed to mail something out and get to Topo's destination. However, and like I said, there were a lot of things being intercepted now, right? And well, he stated that T was hiding from him, right? The Dominican. So it would have been an easier thing if he would have just sent an amapile looking for so and so, and collect for me, remove him, you know. But he wanted these camaradas to do it. For some reason they got in Topo's debt list that they owed a favor to him, and he didn't want to owe a favor to another Pili. For example, let's say Sana sent me and Frankie, right? Just to say like that. Then Topo owed a solid to Sana now, I don't know if I'm making sense, but anyways, you know, these two had a debt with Topo. It was their debt to claim. Me personally, remember when we were standing and that camaradas came out and they basically said where they were coming from. The minute they said his name, it's like I don't know if I must have made a face or something, but man, well, I just got told they Chino lo hablamos, and I left it alone. By this time, I'm surely not stupid. And basically they said everything. They were there to whack that individual, and to be sincere, it was a loss to the yard because again, that individual was on the yard and his money was good all the time, right? But anyways, there was nothing. Arnold Pili was gonna get in the way of Topo collecting what was his, right? So they were supposed to do it in a couple days. They did get questioned why the delay. Supposedly, when they went out and they got given the transfer, for some reason it delayed. You know, they had something going on there. They didn't like the time limit. No. Basically, it was all set, right? Set, and everybody was just gonna open way for these two autos to go boogie. Go take care of whatever needed to be taken care of. But as we're walking, Sana smacks my ears back and he tells me like, ¿Qué pasó, Chino? And I'm like, nada, nada, todo bien. And he tells me like, I know, but you don't know the weight of the individual and tú sabes, that famous word way, lo demás, Yeah, I know, yo sé. And he says, I could tell that when the name came out, your face changed right away. Pitrucha on that. I said, oh, sí, ay, disculpe, no. The whole chat gone around and anyways, to not make this one long, basically, he told us, look, when these two vatos go hit this Dominicano the way they're supposed to, you and Frankie are going to come behind and then you're going to hit these two vatos. And then a couple camaradas, I forget if it's three, four, or five even, are going to come in afterwards and put coscorrones on them, right? And, you know, me being stupid, I said dispuesto, right? Frank, that was his right hand man, and those are no son of though he went off and explained now the debt they owed Topo was one for dope, right? And that he thinks that these two individuals, once they hit the Dominican, is they're not gonna have that dope on them because they were supposed to deliver it before they went out to do that hit to Sana, and they didn't because they were on their way to do the hit, right? And I've been playing dumb, like throwing a little ball, if Sana don't ask, don't say nothing, right? Type of thing. So Sana just left it alone because he says he's just gonna make a big thing, and then I would end up sending regardless to people after them, and then the Dominican. So the delay was they used it, it's gone. So again, it made perfect sense. If you're there, once a vato gets sprung out, man, they start seeing Billy's clearly, then and only then is they don't see Billy's with that volume and that glow that we see them when we're there, right? Like I say, I don't take myself out of the narrative because I was there. I'll be honest with you. I didn't question it. I didn't go against it. Nada. I knew what it was. I knew how it was. And I was dispuesto, right? To boogie at all times, anytime. So that old man had Clecha on him, a lot more than just colmillo, right? Yeah, that's what exactly what he had. He has colmillo for certain things, being in the system and all and all. Anyways, things played the way he wanted them, right? Avatos went out to tea, the Dominican, and first they pulled him to the side and in case they were talking to him and Topo would have gotten his feria. It was more than likely, like I said, the feds they intercepted or misunderstood. I don't know what it was, but Topo was that individual you didn't want. You allowed it to happen and then never checked around to see if it did happen, right? But don't know why Topo couldn't reach out to him no more. But again, wasn't my business. My least concern at this moment was Topo. And me personally, I can't stand them battles with them charges, regardless of how you code them, how you paint them, whatever you lay on them. To me, they're basura. They'll always be basura, regardless if they maintain good, bad, tell, don't tell. However, you know, you mess you mess with women and children and whatever in them aspects, you're. Anyways, I don't want to get out of the story. In my way, I was happy. I was that stupid head. Never did it cross my mind. What fool? Just get you're on the 23rd year and you just took the double L away, right? Now here I go. I'm on my way to whack this fool and happy about it because I'm gonna be whacking some fools in my head that belong to Topo Garcia. You know, these are the dumb things. Like I said, the head plays tricks on you. To keep you pushing, especially when you know it's wrong from all angles. But regardless, guys, no, I'm not gonna glorify on the details on that aspect. But everything went down. They started whacking homeboy and started walking the track and just playing dumb. We were nearby when started whacking them and when they were done and tried to leave homeboy, that's when we jumped up and we did what we were supposed to. And I'll just leave it at that. Tacos corroneros or the camaradas that did the going in once we went in, they tipped them up all the way till they couldn't no more. You guys get it. But that's the way it goes. The reason why I'm telling this story is because, just recently a lot of camaradas went into the system. For those that haven't been in the system, that haven't gotten that clecha, it belongs to your older homies, I know. And do forgive me putting out what don't belong to me. But you gotta be ready when you go in to do what you don't agree with, to push what you're not in agreement with. The reason I say this, because this is an incident with Topo Garcia. He's on Megan's Law. 100% no explanation for it, nada. He was able to stay in because of the way he was doing things, making money, right? But I seen it on the yard with homies paying their way to stay. I seen it with a lot of pilis. So, most of us that come from the gutter, mostly raised by women, you couldn't come into them decisions where you just want to take off. So you gotta set your mind for it. Person's not all what it's painted to. Sometimes you just gotta boogie, wiggle, and trick your mind to keep pushing. This was just a quick story. God bless everyone. Stay true to yourself and love your loved ones. Buenas noches.